or watching on the live stream, I am Councillor Richard Pratt, Chair of this committee. My Vice Chair is Councillor David Taylor. The meeting is being live streamed and will be available to view on the Council website after this meeting. By attending, you consent to being filmed. Can I remind everyone that when you are speaking, please speak directly into the microphones so that you can be clearly heard and seen. Please can I remind members of discussing applications with one another during any adjournments. The Planning Committee is not a public meeting, but a meeting to which the public is invited. All attendees must comply with the ruling of the Chair. They must not interrupt the meeting or cause undue disturbance. To support this, please switch off your mobile phones or select silent mode for the duration of the meeting. And those using Teams, please ensure microphones are on mute and the device volume set to 0 to maintain audio quality. Only those who have registered to speak in accordance with the speaking protocol will be invited to address the committee for a maximum of 3 minutes. No material is to be circulated to members of the committee. We have 5 planning applications to determine today. The first is to consider outline planning permission for 50 dwellings at Bolton. The second is for permission for 6 dwellings at Hinford. The remaining 3 are for properties all owned by Dorset Council. 2 are schools, and the other a business site. For each application, the case officer will be invited to present their report and recommendations. Next, I will invite members of the public who have registered to speak to address the committee in the following order: public against, public support, applicant agent, town or parish council, and ward members. Each speaker has 3 minutes. Please come to the small table at the front when I call your name. Sit down at the chair so that you're close to the microphone. Turn on the microphone by pressing the right-hand side button. It should then turn red. Then press again to turn off when finished, and speak clearly. I'll give you a heads up when you have 30 seconds left of your 3 minutes. Following public speaking, the planning officers will have the opportunity to address any salient points they wish to clarify, and committee members will be given the opportunity to ask questions of the planning officers before moving on to debate. When we go into councillor questions and debate for the benefit of the public watching, can the members please state their name and ward when addressing the meeting, always directing comments via the chair. At the end of the debate, I'll take the vote by a show of hands. The voting detail will be recorded in minutes if 3 or more members make the necessary request. I will now start the agenda. Apologies. We have received 2 apologies for today's meeting. These are from Councillors James Vitale and Les Fry. Declaration of pooling interests or other conflict. Should something come up in the meeting that you think you should declare, then please let me know straight away. I think that Councillor Jack Jeans will not be taking part in agenda item 6. Is that correct, Jack? Okay, thank you for that. The minutes of the last meeting. Please can we, by a show of hands, approve the minutes last meeting held on Tuesday, 10th of December. Okay, thank you. I'll sign that after the meeting. Public participation. Members of the public wishing to speak on the committee on a planning application should notify the Democratic Services Officer no later than 2 clear days before the meeting. The deadline for this meeting was Friday, 31st of January at 8:30 a.m. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak now before the applications are heard, or would you prefer to speak when your applications come up? Anyone? I'll take that as meaning then people speak as when the applications come up. Okay, planning applications. Today we have 5 applications to consider, as I already mentioned. It's a very rough guide. I think the first will take roughly 2 hours, it's quite long, and the second around 40 minutes. The other 3 have 20 minutes each. If the first application takes around, say, 2.5 hours, we'll break for lunch before we hear the second application. Our democratic officers today are John Miles and Megan Waterstone. I'm being supported by Hannah Smith for planning and Philip Craig for legal. And Steve Savage is providing support from highways. Okay, the first application is P/2024/00603. It's got 50 houses at Chaffey Moor at Borton with access. This is a outline planning permission. And this will be presented by Alex Skidmore. If you'd like to go ahead, please, Alex.
Thank you, Chair. So before I proceed with my main presentation, I'll just do a quick correction in my report. And that relates to paragraph 18, which is the recommendation section. And that's for obligations to be secured by Section 106 agreement. And it omitted the affordable housing elements, which is obviously quite important. So that should include, as well as all the other obligations listed, 40% affordable housing. Thank you. So I'll move on with my presentation. As the chair just said, it's an outline application, including details of access only, erection of up to 50 dwellings, providing a new cycle pedestrian link onto West Bolton Road, provision of public open space, a new equipped play area and associated infrastructure. So on the screen before you now is a slide just to give you a little bit of context as to where the application site is in relation to the wider village. So it sits on the western perimeter of the village. It's outlined in yellow here. It comprises 2 paddocks, approximately 7 hectares in area in total. And it sits alongside an area of the village where the village school and church is contained. Just to point out a few other facilities within the village. You have the existing village hall in the middle here, and then you've got a filling station which has got a convenience store here, and towards the eastern edge you've got the doctor's surgery here. A little bit more context, you've got the application site outlined in red just here in the middle of the screen. So it sits alongside the A303 to the south, and then to the north you've got New Road. There is the A1B, as was, is now called National Landscape, Cranbourne National Landscape to the northwest, just up here, just about 520 metres away. There are a number of listed buildings in the vicinity, shown with the red stars on the screen. Most notably, as referenced in the report, you've got Chaffey Moor Farmhouse, just here to the west, and then you've got the church just here to the east. On the screen, you've also got public rights of way shown with pink lines. To the north of the site, you've got a couple of yellow stars marked on. I've put those on purposefully as that's where a couple of photographs I'll show you on later slides have been taken from, looking south down the slope towards the site. There's another star just here, which is on the A303 bridge on the West Bolton Road, taken looking back up towards the site in the northwesterly direction. Also referenced in the report are a couple of planning permissions that have been consented, which are extant. You've got one at Boscombe Farm here, edged in blue, which has got permission for 8 dwellings to go in there in place of that existing building that's to be demolished. And then Chaffey Moor Farmhouse, There's permission to remove several of the more modern barns and to put up and to convert rather the existing historic buildings to an additional 3 dwellings. So the submitted red line plan is on the screen. This shows Chatham Moor Farmhouse complex to the west, Boscombe Farm immediately to the north, and then the main edge of the village to the east, just here. You've got access as well, which shown leading onto New Road just here, and then the pedestrian and cycle route, which will link through the site, going in an arc, linking down to West Sporting Road to the southeast here. So the parameter plan is next. The purpose of the parameter plan is to secure where the built development will go and where it won't go. So where the residential development is shown here, that is in the white portion, the northeast area of the site just here. And it would be confined within that area through the securing of this plan. The grey area on the western and southern side is where the open space would go and the green infrastructure. There is also a buffer for the landscaping that goes around the northern edge along New Road and also all along the eastern edge as well. And that's to allow for biodiversity enhancements, protected species, and also for additional planting. The access would follow between the tram lines here, and so that's the access road, and also that cycle pedestrian link referenced before that links down to West Sporting Road. And then there's the equipped play area, the Leap, just here. Excuse me. So the plan before you now is only indicative. As said before, this is an outline application with only matters of access being secured at this point in time. But it does show you how a quantum of this type of development could potentially be accommodated within the area for residential development. It also indicates a green buffer, which will separate the built development from Chaffey Moor Farmhouse to the west, which is the heritage assets. And that's a form of mitigation to mitigate and keep that separateness for Chaffey Moor Farm complex. As well as respectful of the Boughton neighbourhood plan, which references green fingers and views as well, looking in and out along New Road. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to my highway colleague, Steve Savage, for the highway planning.
Yeah, sure. On the screen before you can see the access which is proposed. It's pretty much in the same position as an existing agricultural access on the C-class road. It's just shifted down by 2 or 3 meters, I think, from where it originally was. As you heard, the access here, or both access points, there's another to the south, are being considered at this stage. So the surety I can give you is that the access you see there meets with our design requirements. It's shown a 5.5 metre wide access, which is the minimum we'd require from the state road. 2 vehicles to pass, and that includes large vehicles, and to provide the necessary white lining. On either side, there will be 2 metre footways, which will link into the existing footway provision along New Road. And New Road itself has got footway provision all the way through to the village facilities. Visibility displays, you'd be able to make out some pink dashed lines on the drawing there. Sorry, I haven't got my microphone. I thought it was on. You should be able to make out the pink dashed lines we have there. The dimensions, the 2.4 by 125, so way in excess of what's required. I think these are a reflection of the previous application that was withdrawn on the site, and that was when New Road was subject to a 40 mph speed limit, but that was changed in June last year, and it's now a 30 mph speed limit. So we'd normally be looking for 2.4 by 43 metre visibility displays, and as you can see, they're indicating they can get in excess for 100 metres in both directions, so there are no issues with visibility. The dashed line in the centre of the carriageway in the buffer area is the forward visibility for a car that's travelling from the east. We have to drive down over the brow of the hill and should be able to see a car turning right into the site. So we're confident that the design of the access is okay. Alex, have you got one which shows the pedestrian access? Now this is it. We also negotiated a pedestrian and cycle access on Westbourton Road, which is another C-class highway, which links the settlement down to the Gillingham Mere Road. What you can see there is effectively a link. The dotted line shows the footway cycleway link through to then a shared area, which is utilised by an existing farm access, and then onto the highway. So again, this improves pedestrian connectivity and cycling connectivity to the highway network as a whole. In terms of traffic generation, we have no issues with it. It's well within the parameters we'd expect for a development of this size. So that's basically the highway access requirements, and I'll obviously answer any questions that members will have, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alex, you can resume.
Thank you. So I'll move on to a few photographs. As referenced earlier on my context plan, so one of those sorry, not the yellow stars quite yet. Sorry, this is Studham New Road looking south into the site. The site itself on the south, east and west sides predominantly enclosed by hedgerows and mature tree planting. On the roadside, it's a bit more scrappy. There's a fence going along there as well, and some vegetation that's growing. You can see it's a sloping site. It slopes down to the to the south and to the west. This gives you a slightly better indication of the gradient. So there is this gradient which rises up as you approach the village along New Road. The application site is on the right-hand side of the picture, and you can see the existing footway that links to where the site access is just behind me. So Studham New Road again in the same position, but looking in the opposite direction, in a westerly direction. And you can that's looking back towards Chaffey Moor Farm, just here. The site is on my left-hand side of the picture. On the right is Boscombe Farm. You can see the farmhouse. The actual building where the application site is for the 8 dwellings, it's got consent, is just out of shot to my right. This is Studham New Road to the west. You just come into the village. So it sort of dips down to start with. You've got Chaffey Moor Farm just sitting in here. Sitting behind, you can see the application field, which rises up behind this green area here. As you approach further again, closer to Chaffey Moor, you can see that that field becomes obscured from view. So that view as you come in is fairly fleeting on that approach into the village. Referencing back to those little yellow stars I referred to on that context plan earlier in my presentation. So this is stood to the north of the site, looking down towards the village and the application site from one of those public rights of way. So you can see the extent of the site roughly shown here with that black line. So the site itself, as you look down the slope, you've got that hedgerow, you've got a green slither of land that's still on the same side as New Road as I'm standing. The application site is behind that again. You can only see glimpses of the green field through all the vegetation that sits in between. Walking along that same footpath into the next field, the view, does open up a little bit more. So you're looking down the slope again in a southerly direction. Again, the extent of the application site here. And you can see behind that hedgerow, behind the buildings that sit in front, you've got this green line, again, interspersed with some existing planting, and that's the application site. Just a reminder, the built form would be on the left-hand side of that field, and the right-hand side would be given over to landscaping and that green buffer to separate Chaffey Moor Farm from the new builds. This is stood on the bridge on Westbourton Road that goes over the A303, looking in a northwesterly direction. So this is the application site in here. So that southern paddock shown here, that is going to be given completely over to public open space and landscaping. The paddock behind, again on that right-hand side, is where the built form would go, just as the land rises up. And then on the left side, the west side, is again going to be given over to open space and that green buffer. So I put all the planning obligations up on the slide, and that's in view of the fact of the omission of the 40% affordable housing in the published report. So it's just a refresher. I won't read them through in their entirety, but obviously you've got the 40% affordable housing, contribution of £2,000 per dwelling towards provision of a new village hall or improved refurbished existing village hall in Broughton, another £2,000 per dwelling towards other facilities in Broughton. You've then got a array of provisions for the NHS, for education. You've got the public open space being provided, as well as maintenance fee. Again, the equipped play area, and again, another maintenance fee. So I will, otherwise it's all as in the report, apart from that 40% affordable housing. So moving to the summary. So under the core strategy, spatial strategy policy of the local plan, which is policy 2, Broughton is designated as one of a number of larger villages alongside Stallbridge to be a focus for growth to meet local needs outside the main towns of Blandford, Gillingham, Shaftesbury and Sturminster Newton. As such, some growth is permitted here. The site, however, does sit outside Broughton's defined development boundary, where technically the local plan, countryside policy and village hall policy set out within Broughton's neighbourhood plan apply. It is recognised, however, that the scale and nature of the development does go beyond the scope of what either of these policies allow for. The council does benefit from a 5-year housing land supply, albeit only one of 5.02 years. And in the current policy setting, it is considered that increased housing supply should be considered in the overall planning balance and sustainability arguments in the decision-making process. The application site itself, whilst outside development limits, is considered to be in a sustainable location with good pedestrian connections that will allow future residents to walk safely to the range of local services and facilities found within the village. The development would provide a number of benefits, not least the provision of 50 new dwellings, of which 40% would be affordable, along with substantial financial contributions towards the village hall facilities and village facilities more generally. It includes the provision of an area of public open space and equipped play facilities, which would be available for the wider community to use. The site would benefit from improved biodiversity, potential boost in expenditure and use of existing businesses, such as shop and pub, as well as shorter-term benefits of job creation during the construction phase. In terms of harms, less than a substantial harm to heritage asset, which is Chappie Moor Farmhouse, has been identified, as well as very limited harm to local character and landscape. It is considered that such harms, however, can be suitably mitigated through careful landscaping and provision for green buffer. So whilst the development would conflict with the development plan as a whole, there are material considerations that indicate that permission should be granted. And when taking all of the above into consideration, the identified public benefits arising from the development are considered to outweigh the harms. And when considered against the development plan and other material considerations as set out within the report, the proposed development is considered to represent a sustainable form of development for which there is no substantive reasons to justify refusing the application. The application is therefore brought to committee, recommended for approval, subject to the completion of an acceptable Section 106 agreement and the conditions as written in the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Now I'd like to welcome the public speakers. The first person is Michael Brian Chapman. We'd like to make your way to the talking table and all that.
Thank you, Jan.
3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
I'm a resident of Broughton and I object to this development. This is farmland. In 2024, had hay made, was fertilised with digestate and had heifers on it until October. Proper farmland. You could make a case for such development if Dorset had less than the required housing land supply. It hasn't. The argument put forward that you should allow development to avert a future land supply problem is problematic. Where does that argument start or stop? In any case, there are thousands of houses in the offing within a short distance of the village in Gillingham, Shaftesbury, Mere and Wincanton, 3 counties. There is no overriding need to build on this pasture. You could make the case that Borton's neighbourhood plan suggested it was a good idea. It doesn't. You could make the case that the community were for it. It isn't. There is a lot of local opposition, as you will have noted. You could make the case that the community was shrinking, but Borton has already grown by 15% in recent years, with approvals in place for more. There is no driving rationale for this development. In Borton, we have seen schemes with affordable housing being eroded and reduced in quality as they move from outline into final design. Do we want such lowest common denominator housing? Do we help the less well-off by marooning them in the countryside with minimal public transport, no local employment, few services, and no significant communities, ensuring they must drive to work, play, shop, access education and health services? This is not how to support rural communities. This is how to create new isolation and deprivation. This development delivers 50+ cars driving everywhere to do anything. It causes a 10% hike in sewage, with high levels of spills into the Stour already. By the way, 5-minute spill just on Saturday, just south of Borton, from Borton sewage. There is no commitment to solar or air source heating, which would in any case increase house prices. There is no mains gas here. The default solution for affordable home heat would seem to be 50 new kerosene tanks. Is that right for the 21st century? The open space, sloping grassland, with a path from nowhere to nowhere, plus a few trees overlooking one of the busiest trunk roads in the nation, does not constitute a community asset. The open space on offer will always be noisy, and it won't be healthy, especially in the summer. In time, it will become a burden on the parish. This application in this place, at this scale, should be refused. Contrary to a bus, its significant real and long-term harms more than outweigh illusory benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I please ask Louise Harris to speak? Thank you. Again, you have 3 minutes, and I'll give you a heads up when 30 seconds are left.
The planning application for 50 houses isn't needed. There is already outline planning for 8 at Boscombe, the bar conversions at Chattermore. If the 50 were approved, this is over 60 houses on 3 developments, all at the same edge of the village, within a very short distance of each other. The proposal alone represents a 10% increase in the size to a rural village on the edge of an A&OB. The proposed development is on a greenfield site outside of Borton's settlement boundary. The proposed development would have a serious impact on views from the south of the setting, the Cranbourne Chase and the West Wiltshire Downs National Landscape, the boundary through which lies on the high ground to the north of the site. The proposed development clearly removes a buffer of green space between Borton and the hamlet of Chattermore. It would link Chattermore with Borton, destroying the former's character and identity. Borton still has ongoing development of the Borton Mill site. This development isn't finished and doesn't look like it will be anytime soon. As for the affordable housing, it won't be that affordable for the locals trying to get on the property ladder. If the development is given the go-ahead, then the affordable housing should be for local residents only. Why build a park at the far end of the village? Borton is over a mile long, and if parents want to take young children to the park, they will now probably drive them. The park should be central to the village, not right on the edge. Developers regularly get away with not fulfilling the SC106s. The 2 fields in this proposal are productive farmland, as well as providing homes for a large variety of wildlife, deer, also a habitat for a variety of species. Most notably, farmland birds, often seen are species such as buzzards, red kites, little egrets, owls, redwing, and many more that are observed in this location. Currently, a small shop, a post office, and a fuel station with no fuel since October that serves the village and surrounding areas. There is no employment opportunities in the immediate area, which will require the need for such substantial additional housing, meaning the residents would have to commute. That in turn leads to an environmental impact on the area. As for speed, yes, the majority of cars are driving slower since the introduction of the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Sadly, a lot are driving fast, both entering and exiting the village. Regularly, the speed indicator flashes over 40 miles an hour. So with this development, additional cars pulling out onto new road will only lead to an accident. Do we need a further 50 houses? No. Currently on Rightmove, there are over 15 houses for sale in the village. Some of those have been for sale since last summer.
Thank you very much. I now ask Paul Curry to speak.
Good morning. My name's Paul Curry, and I'm a 13-year resident of Bolton. This latest iteration of this application has morphed from a modest enabling plan for 9 houses and a gift of land to accommodate a new village hall into a speculative plan for a dense estate of 50 houses, reduced from 55, and a potential contribution of £100,000 to enable refurbishment of our present hall, as well as such things as £15,000 for allotments with no proper need, and over £3,000 for bus stop improvements for a village that has no bus service. The primary, if not sole motivation for this application is to render the land attractive to potential purchasers, as it will be offered for sale as soon as permission is granted. There is no proven need for 50 houses in Bolton, as we are already well served by the 60 dwellings built in the last decade, and yet another 14 already approved for construction. The village cannot assimilate the addition of at least 100 plus new residents, let alone 50 plus extra vehicles, increasing traffic in the village, being used daily for commuting, given the absence of employment in the area, which must increase pollution, contrary surely to our government's net zero plans. The doctor's surgery is already at capacity and has recently contracted its catchment area in order to reduce the number of new patients. Our primary school, with a yearly reception intake of 17, is always full. Each of the 3 classes numbers at least 34 pupils, as they all accommodate 2 year groups. The school can never accept ad hoc applications for children 5 years old and older. This affects every family newly arriving in the village right now, and will only worsen surely if this misguided plan is allowed. Notably, the Section 106 settlement, arrived at with no consultation with our community, offers £204,000 for improvement at Gillingham High School, £9,500 for Bolton and Seals Preschool, and £74,000 for SEND provision, but no contribution for Bolton Primary School, as, according to Dorset planning officials, primary education is excluded from consideration in Section 106 allocations. This development, if permitted, will certainly change forever the rural ambience of Bolton, but provide no appreciable benefit for the village or its residents. So please, it should be refused. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask Becky Brown, the applicant agent, Director of SF Planning, to speak on behalf of the applicant. You have 3 minutes, and I'll give you a reminder when 30 seconds are left.
Good morning, Chairman. Thank you. Good morning, members. And thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of the applicant today. I'm very grateful for the comprehensive work of the planning officers and for the technical commentary provided in the report. A new and viable use for this site is now needed, and as you'll have heard from the landowner in the letter that was circulated yesterday, there has been a long process of engagement with the parish and district councils to bring this site forward through the proper planning processes over many years. This engagement saw the site being allocated for development within the Bolton Neighbourhood Plan, which includes this site as one of 2 Policy 5 sites for a new village hall, car park, public space and housing. A previous planning application was approved by this committee, but a local change of priority for the hall has meant that a new proposal is now needed. For 3 years, we've been working proactively with your planning team and our consultants through the pre-application, consultation and application stages. We've had to find the right balance in making the best use of sustainably located land in a time of housing need. The proposal here is at an appropriately limited scale and low density suitable for Bolton, and the quantity of housing was reduced following the pre-app and again as part of this application following the advice of your officers, which we duly heeded. Developer contributions totaling more than 700,000 have been agreed with the council, and with your agreement today will be secured via a Section 106 legal agreement. This significant funding will provide support for local schools and the NHS, and approximately half of this could be used to provide new or improved local facilities in Bolton, such as the village hall, allotments and the sports facilities. The majority of this site is planned as public open space, which has the potential to benefit all members of the existing community. Land equivalent to 7 football pitches is being offered to Bolton Parish for public recreation and to locate those new facilities as the parish sees fit. The planning officer's report demonstrates that this proposal complies with most relevant policies, technical criteria, and would cause no significant or demonstrable harm. The combinations
30 seconds.
of financial contributions, 40% affordable housing and a very significant quantum of public open space provide you with an opportunity today to secure these real benefits in perpetuity, whilst also meeting a local housing need. In balance and in accordance with the framework, the recommendation is for your approval. On behalf of all those involved with bringing this project forward, I thank you for your time and respectfully request that you show support for a motion to approve this application. Many
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now ask Mike Skinner to speak. Now, Mike Skinner is the applicant, but speaking on behalf of Peter Hawkins, one of the landowners.
Dear members of the Planning Committee, as the representative of the SC Hannam Trust, the long-standing custodian of Chatham Moor Farm, I want to provide the contextual insight into this land and planning history, which I hope will assist the committee. In 1992, the A303 Bolton bypass was built and bisected this farm, which in combination with the site's topography and ageing farmyard infrastructure have made these northern parcels far less viable for continuing their previous farming uses. The former dairy farm regrettably fell into difficulties, and the long-serving tenant farmer was forced to retire following concerns for animal welfare and ongoing viability. A new and viable use for this site is now needed. The Trust has historic and deep-rooted ties to the Bolton area and believes that this development, with significant amounts of funding and open space included, shall provide a long-term benefit to future generations living in Bolton. The planning application for you today is by and large a culmination of 17 years of engagement with the Parish Council, District Council and numerous specialist consultants. This engagement sought the site being allocated for development within the Bolton Neighbourhood Plan, which includes this site as one of 2 potential sites for the new village hall, car park, green space and housing. At this committee in May 2019, a motion was proposed by Councillor Pothecary, seconded by Councillor Jones, that this site shall be granted planning permission, and members at that point raised no concerns before supporting the motion by voting to approve the application. Since that time, the Parish Council has reassessed its options for the village hall, and so a new approach is now required to secure a viable long-term use for the site, while also aspiring to deliver community benefits in a similar vein to that previously committed and allocated for. Our instructions to the team of architects and consultants has been to find the right balance between making the best use of available land to adapt to changing local needs and to maximise the benefits that can be unlocked for the existing local community. I believe that this proposal strikes that balance well, with a sensitively located quantity of new rural housing supporting a significant and sizable region of land for public community uses that we should hope contribute positively to the SC Hannam legacy. Boundary hedgerows and mature trees shall all be retained. Our local heritage assets and their settings are to be conserved and respected. In particular, the proposed fruit orchards shall reintroduce a lost historical feature to this part of the farm for the benefit of all.
30 seconds.
The Trust thereby aims to ensure that Chappie-Moor Farm remains a valued part of Broughton and a place that honours its past while meeting contemporary needs. I trust that the committee will recognise the time and care that's been taken to bring this application forward, and thank you for considering this proposal and our perspective. Yours sincerely, Peter Hawkins, on behalf of the SC Hannam Trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I now please ask Councillor Peter Williams, the chairman of Broughton Parish Council, to speak. Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. Morning to all members and planning officers. Having considered the strong objections of Broughton's residents and the indicated section 106 contributions, Broughton Parish Council objects to this objection for the following reasons. The application site is outside Broughton settlement boundary and would greatly exceed the area needed to deliver the aims of Neighbourhood Plan Policy 5. The latter allocates a small portion of this site for 9 dwellings and the site for a village hall. It should be noted that Broughton Parish Council is currently seeking to revise its neighbourhood as there is no longer any desire to obtain the site for a new village hall, since securing the necessary funds, over £900,000, to build one will just not be possible. Development on the scale proposed would constitute significant harm to the setting of the village and would have a negative impact on the local landscape, especially the setting of the AONB to the north of the application site. The proposed development would be contrary to the local plan. Policy 2 requires development to be focused on the 4 main towns of North Dorset. This application for 50 dwellings is way above the scale of development due, given in large villages. Policy 3 stipulates that development proposals should seek to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Given the lack of employment, amenities and services in Broughton, the vehicle usage associated with 50 dwellings on this site would increase the village's carbon footprint significantly. Policy 4, the fields on this site are farmland, hence their status as viable agricultural land remains in place. The applicant has failed to demonstrate that there is an identified local and essential rural need in relation to the proposed number of dwellings, as stipulated within Local Plan Policy 6. Over the past 15 years in Broughton, 60 dwellings have been constructed and planning permission has been granted for a further 14. In total, this amounts to a 20% expansion. Increasing the village's population by at least another 100 in 50 dwellings will place immense strain on Broughton's local surgery and require the transportation of children to schools elsewhere, since Broughton's primary school is completely full. Policy 20 stipulates that development outside defined settlement boundaries will only be permitted if it can be demonstrated. If it can be demonstrated that there is an overriding need for it to be located in the countryside. There is no such need for housing on the application site since it's farmland and outside Broughton's settlement boundary. Therefore, contrary to the planning officer's reasons for recommending the granting of approval, Broughton Parish Council considers the hypothetical benefits of the development will be seriously outweighed by the identified harms.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to ask the planning team whether there are any salient points that have been raised that you would like to address.
Not at this point, but obviously happy to answer questions as members raise them.
Okay, thank you. Please might ask the board members, first of all, whether they have any questions. Yeah, so quick.
Councillor Val possibly going in villages. The only question I have was read the pre-application advice. Having studied this application very carefully and all the supporting evidence, I understand that pre-application advice was given in January 2023, which said, the officer said, I'm unable to encourage you to submit a planning application based upon the current proposals which fail to accord with planning policy requirements. I haven't found any other application since then that is significantly different than the pre-application proposals. Could you tell me if that's accurate or not? Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah?
Thank you, Chair. The pre-application advice was given on land exceeding what was submitted as the planning application, so included a much higher quantum of development to seek advice on what could be acceptable at that point in time, and it was based on the policy situation at that point in time. So the lower figure was also included, and the advice, if you read the broad advice, was that if an application was to be put in, it should include just the top bit of the field closer to the settlement, so it better reflected the settlement pattern. But the overall conclusion was that it does, as is the case now, conflict with the development plan because it's outside of the settlement boundary. So that hasn't changed. But obviously, when a planning application comes in, we have to weigh up everything in the round and look at the situation at this point in time and come to a conclusion. So the pre-application advice is not binding; it's that officer's advice at that point in time to provide officer opinion before the application is put in. What you have before you now is a full application with all the matters before you and a full recommendation from your officers.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for the clarification. I just thought it should be cleared up.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Wood.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Colwood, Gillingham Ward. Just a question about how much, obviously this is an outline plan determining access, so how much of the detail regarding the layout, the actual open space that they'll have, kind of giving that over to the parish council to maintain, all those aspects, how much of that are they actually beholden to in the long term? Or is that just kind of indicative right now?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of what the parish council will be beholden to, so I've left the parameter plan on the screen there that shows where the open space will be. Obviously, there will be a need to maintain that going forward in the future. With our 106s, when we secure that, we usually have a two-tier clause in there, so that obviously maintenance has to be provided, but first of all, it can be offered to the parish council, whether they wish to adopt it. It's their choice whether they do that. If they do, then there is a maintenance fee as listed in the 106 schedule in the report, and that fee from ongoing maintenance would be gifted then to the parish council for that purpose. If they choose not to adopt it, then it would have to go into a management company, and it would be the costs, basically those who live there then would contribute towards the ongoing cost of maintaining that open space, and that would apply to the LEAP as well, so the equipped play space.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cougar.
Two questions. No, sorry. Yeah, two questions. Housing register, how many of the local people are on housing register for that? And the second question is, in the reasons for recommendation, bullet point 3, it talks about the proposal is acceptable in terms of its impact on the character of the settlement and local landscape. In the report, the DC Urban Design Officer was unable to support. The DC Conservation Officer was unable to support, and the DC Landscape Officer was unable to support. So I just wondered how you came to that recommendation, bullet point 3.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair.
Hannah?
First of all, on the affordable housing point, we don't have the information today to give you on the need in Bolton itself, the parish. What I can say though is there's a significant need for affordable housing in the former district area. And in terms of our allocation policy, when the affordable housing is allocated, it would go through our allocation policy, and people that had shown a local connection to Bolton would be allocated that housing as a priority because they've shown a preference there if they meet the eligibility criteria. So what we can be sure of is there's a significant need for affordable that this site would go some way to address in terms of 40% of the homes. And there would be a priority for people that preference to local connection to Bolton. But this is not an exception site, so we're not looking at the affordable housing here just based on what the need of Bolton is. It would be Bolton and the wider area that it would be contributing towards, and that significant need that we do have.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Another question?
No, answer to my second part, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd just add as well to what Hannah just said, in terms of the affordable housing, so our housing officer has asked that 25% be first homes. So first homes, that would be for that local connection, and would mean that they could buy at a discount. Usually that's around about 30%, sometimes higher, but I think 30% is quite a usual reduction. And that would go forward then into the future as well. So if they sold that home, whoever looked at it to buy in the future, that discount would continue. So that's kind of an added advantage then for the people living in Bolton. They get that extra option, if you like. The remainder of the affordable then is split 70-30, which are traditional split between this affordable social rent and then shared ownership for the 30%. So just to add on to what Hannah just said there. Going on to the harm, you noted that a number of our technical officers have raised concerns and objections. So obviously we look at that very carefully. They look at it in their own very sort of narrow field, if you like, and I, as a planning officer, have to look at it in the round. I've obviously been out site, I've looked at things very closely, I've looked at the concerns that have been raised, and we've obviously looked at what mitigation can be provided as well. So in terms of issues, say with layout, as it has to be reinforced at this point, we haven't got layout before us. It is only indicative because this is outline, so only access is a matter to be secured at this point. In terms of issues raised and impact on Chaffey Moor farmhouse, which is the heritage asset, again, we've got that green finger referencing the neighbourhood plan with their own terminology. So we've got that green buffer as shown on the screen before you to separate and keep that sort of slight sense of isolation and separateness for the farmhouse away from the actual village. In terms of impact, say on the AONB, for example, again, consider that very carefully. I've walked the footpaths, I've looked at it really, really closely. As you go up the hills, so where some of the photographs were taken looking down in a southerly direction towards the site, the land behind then plateaus, and that's where the AONB is. So if I bring up my context plan again on the screen, so you can see here the AONB marked in the pink reddy colour to the northwest here. The photographs taken, the one with the most sort of open views looking down to the site is this yellow star here looking down. But the land behind here, it plateaus off. So in terms of that intervisibility between the AONB, if you're stood in the AONB looking towards the site, with the intervening vegetation, the topography, it's very difficult to discern the site if at all. Looking up from the south, I've walked the footpaths down on the other side of the A303 as well. Looking up again, because it's more level, it's lower topography. Looking up again, that those views looking towards the site and its context with the village, it's very, very minimal in terms of how it's going to intrude into that local landscape. From further afield, when you're looking towards the AONB, the site amalgamates and coalesces with the village, and again, you'd be very hard pressed to discern the proposed development site in relation to looking towards the AONB. So I don't know if that puts minds at ease, but that's how I came to my conclusions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillor Cooper. Can I just come back on that, because I just feel that there's 3 officers employed by the Dorset Council are unable to support this application. And therefore, you know, I think that is very significant.
Okay, Hannah's just going to come in there.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's a really good point. All the constituents raised really, valid points and negotiation resources. What we have to look at as officers is, do we have good reasons if we were in an appeal situation? So I know it might seem a bit strange, but just because a consultee is unable to support it doesn't necessarily mean we have strong grounds at appeal, and that's the context we need to look at it in. Yes, they've raised concerns, but are they sufficient in an appeal situation to defend? And that's the key and what you need to consider today.
Yeah. Okay, so do you need to come back on that?
Oh,
Okay, fine. Any other questions?
Can I come in? Yeah.
Councillor Dave?
Yeah. Where are we? That one? Can I have another mic? Is that one specific? Oh, it's on.
It's on now.
Oh, great, got me. Good morning, Councillor David Taylor here from Chelmsford Dorset Council, and also Vice Chair of this Planning Committee today, Northern Planning. I'm in a bit of a grey area actually, Chair, and I'd like some guidance here if you don't mind. We're looking for outline planning of this application today. The various questions and formats and presentations have stated a lot of the detail of the application, but we haven't got any of the detail on the application. That means just basically an outline plan. We've got the highways, we've got the pathways, we've got the guided roads and safety, and the fact that people are listening to it and saying about the valuable farmland which will be lost. So my question is the fact is, like, this has given us today we're going for a vote to say that we're going to go for outline planning permission. But my concern is where does it go from here? Because that's what I need to question, because you said about the look of appeal and this, that and the other, but this is like vague. Does that make it sound clear? And that's why I'm listening to lots of representations from the autumn. And I understand the concerns and I see where you're going, but this is where I have to try and figure out where are we going with this. And that's the information I need, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hannah,
Thank
please
you,
go ahead.
Yes, it's an outline application, which is not unusual on sites, especially larger sites, where it's permissible to apply for outline plan permission for certain aspects. And in this instance, we know the quantum of development, so 50 dwellings, and we know the site access points, pedestrian and vehicular. All that extra information will come in as part of what's called the reserve matters application. So all the detailed layouts, the appearance of the building, the landscaping, I've forgotten one. Scale will all come in at reserve matters stage. So it's just basically in 2 parts. The full application will be considered by the council. It's just that not all at one time. So what Alex has here is, which is very useful, is parameter plans.
Yeah.
So this parameter plan will guide what reserve matters will look like. So because the development, if it comes in as reserve matters, has to comply with this plan, we know that that area there, you can see grey, has to be landscaped area. We know that the developable area is the area that's the lined area at the top of the site. And we know that the access area and the buffers around the site will have to be in that location. And we know that the play space will be in that location there. So that will guide the reserve matters that you get in at a later date. And all those details then have to be acceptable at that point in time. So the fact that it's outlined, it's nice to have all the details up front, but we have some parameters and we have the knowledge that we'll get those details at a later date should this application be granted.
Okay, can I come in?
Yes, go ahead again.
Thank you, Hannah. Excellent. That one there. One remiss for detail I will notice has been completely left out is the environmental issues and the things that we're not looking at any of the roof panels, electric charging stage. So no, we don't need to. It's just the fact is that to weight this application today is that future-wise, what are we looking at? You know, because we could say we're in a different world now, and that's the question. Is that this is very sketchy on my part, and that's it, Chair.
Thank you. Would you like to come back on that?
Sorry, John, environment, can I have a little bit more information on the environment?
Environmental issues, the fact as well as the other issues being made. Sorry, as well as the other issues being raised in this today, we haven't touched on the environment at all. We've just basically gone for the development, the outline, of course. So that's where I need to quite understand the fact that this is an important question, and the fact is it's not on public opinion and minds as well. So needs a bit more evidence there. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so from the more sustainability point of view, environmental side of, so biodiversity, whilst the application was submitted before BNG, so biodiversity net gain came in, there will be biodiversity enhancement here, and I believe they will be hitting at least their 10% enhancement, regardless of the fact they don't have to here. So there will be some significant improvements from that point of view. From a more climate-based point of view, as noted by one of the objectors, there's not gas in the village. Although we can't guarantee what types of heat source there will be, most modern housing coming forward these days to meet modern building regulations, then it's very likely going to be heat source or something along those lines of a more renewable nature, because obviously that's also attractive to buyers looking for that. Going outside my own remit now, but more often than not, new housing, they are incorporating those green features. Obviously, come reserved matters, further detail will be sought. So things like, will there be solar panels? Will there be air source heat pumps, etc.? We are handicapped because it is an outline application, but reserve matters, there would be more detail of that nature. Don't know if that fully.
Yeah, that covers it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any members have any more questions? Councillor Ottlebury, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. It's just really following on from Councillor Taylor's questions. Is it fair to say, although we haven't got the detail on here, it is an outline application only?
Yes.
If we permit this outline application, that is it. We can't ever withdraw it, and we have to presume that whatever is proposed, following on, will be acceptable in one form or another to us.
Thank you.
Agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we'd be granting planning permission for 50 dwellings and the access points, but there would be control, as I explained, through the reserve matters about what that looked like. And we do have an indicative layout. I don't know if we can just share that. This is only indicative, so it's not completely worked out, but it gives an idea about how the roads could be laid out in a way that allows landscaping to break up the impact of the dwellings. This is not a decision now, so please take that as an indicative plan, but it does show, it's useful to show the quantum development, where that would sit, and what the public open space could look like when we get the full landscaping layout and other details.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Jones.
Just two very quick ones, please. Mr. Chapman in his presentation mentioned some kerosene tanks, and I'm just wondering what that means in terms of, I don't know, was that in any application? I'm not sure where it came from. And the other question relates to the affordable content. If this application goes through, could we request as a condition that at least one of those houses, affordable, has disabled access?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Could
you.
you go ahead, please, Alex?
Thank you. I think the reference to the kerosene was made in the same reference to the lack of gas supply to the village, which is harking back to what I said just now in terms of the climate sort of aspect. Those sorts of details have yet to be bottomed out in terms of whether there be heat source pumps or how the heating would take place. But looking forward now, most new houses they are fitted with more sustainable means of heating, etc. So moving on to the affordable side of it, sorry, I've already forgotten. Sorry.
Can we condition, because I think that is down at outline, there's at least one of the affordable houses, should this go through, is suitable for somebody disabled.
Yes, I mean, normally anyway, we would want a certain proportion to be capable of. So it's built in and designed in a way that whether it's actually built ready to go with certain, but in terms of its layout, in terms of width of doors and downstairs looms and all those sorts of things, then it'd be adaptable basically.
Okay.
So it'd be easily adaptable. So that's usually built into our 106s.
Okay. Would you by any chance know whether there is the grid capacity in that area for this development? I know we perhaps don't have to consider it, but I just always think it's a pretty major thing.
So grid capacity, yeah, it does fall outside of the scope of this planning application. But I mean, obviously the developer, should this be approved, they will have to go to the relevant utility companies, get their own legal agreement set up with them, and make sure that that side of things is acceptable, just like any other utility, or not just electrics.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Now, I've got a few questions that I'd like some clarity on. I think these are questions that have been asked before. I think we ought to discuss them. One is about the bus frequency, the bus service in the area. Could you tell us about the relevance of that and the availability of services?
No, not the consultee comments came through. Apologies, Chair. We're just going to look that one up. These things do change over time as well. You know, it's accepted, and I think I acknowledged in my report that levels of service are very, very low. So it's infrequent, but there is a level of service. Hannah's just trying to get the consultee comments.
Steve might be
Oh, that's a good point. Sorry, Steve, do you know?
I might be able to give you a bit more information. The consultee comment from Public Transport Chair. So they'd be seeking a 106 contribution for bus stops. And their comment says there is at present only limited bus services at this location. So we would be asking only for some poles and flags, as some of the stopping places are unmarked. We hope that this development will encourage an increase in service provision in Bordon. So I think they're acknowledging that the service is limited, but more people who live there may require more buses. But to be fair, this is a typical rural situation with very limited bus services.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Another question is about the primary school. And I think we have discussed this before, but what the question in fact is places being available and the ability of the school to take in the obviously new pupils.
Okay, so your question on the primary school provisions. So at the moment, the school has taken in a lot of children who are outside catchment. So obviously with the new houses being built, if they're approved, it'll take a while for them to be built. But the families that move in there, who live there, they will get first priority in terms of getting their kids into their local school. So that will be above those sitting outside catchment. So and that's why extra contributions haven't been sought for the primary school. I think Hannah might want to come in. She has looked into this in some depth.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, we can sometimes collect the primary provision, and you'll see that in heads of terms sometimes when we can justify a requirement for asking for a contribution. We have spoken to our education colleagues and our SIL officers about this, and the information we've had is that children in catchment that are eligible can access the school. This is the information we're getting from our education authority. And that extra pressure comes from out of area catchments, children that might already be at the school that have siblings but are outside the catchment, not being able to access the school in terms of oversubscription. Therefore, that's why education haven't asked for a primary contribution, because we would be trying to increase the facility to cater for out of catchment children. And that's the advice that we got very recently from our education colleagues and our SIL officer in the implementation team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Just one more question. Same question really pertaining to the doctor's surgery in terms of capacity.
Thank you. I'll just turn to the contributions slide, if I may. So within that list, somewhere hidden away, here we go, fourth one down, there is a contribution to go towards additional NHS support, and that's primary, secondary and community care. So that, I believe, would include the doctor's surgery if that was felt to be needed. I do have a correction to give as well in reference to the answer I gave just now on the affordable housing and the adaptable living. So apparently I was erroneous in what I just said. All the 106s I've dealt with, it seems to incorporate this as a requirement. So the councillors request that at least one of those houses would be suitable for sorry, I forget the technical wording, but that, you know, for different needs, then yeah, so that is a requirement that the councillors would like to see, then that is something we can add to the recommendation. Yeah, we'll go on 106 agreement.
Okay, thank you. I think we've finished our questions. I think Councillor Cooper would like to.
Can I just ask one further question about the children attending the school from outside the catchment area? Do we know how many children from outside the catchment area attend the school now? Because, you know, if it's nearly full with people, with children from in the catchment area, you know, this is going to put more pressure on it.
Go ahead, now.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have figures before me of how many children are out of catchment and access the school. There's allocation policies for each school that they'd have to adhere to in terms of how spaces are provided to children that apply to the school. The advice we're being given in terms of the contributions that we can put forward is that we can't justify primary contribution at this point in time. And I know obviously locally there's concerns about primary education here, but we can only go on the information we're being given from our education colleagues and cannot include it as a heads of term if in the heads of terms if we think we can't justify it, because we basically can't be solving existing problems. We can only mitigate the impact this development would have on the primary school for the proportion of children that would be generated from this development. So it's not the, you know, if there is an existing situation, we can't sort of solve that through this application. We can only request a contribution when there's a capacity issue that needs to be addressed and contributions need to be made for specific measures because of this development itself. So yeah, so I don't have those figures, but that's the advice we've had from, and I wouldn't advise that we could add that contribution without good evidence, because the calculations that the Education Authority used to come up with these contributions for secondary, primary, SEN and such like, all based on detailed calculations that we can then justify the requirement of the developer.
Right.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Rideout.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a comment. So I'd like to make a comment, please. Belinda Rideout, Gillingham Ward. Oh, we've heard a lot of discussion this morning. We realise the future of this site's been going on for quite a while, and that's why it's important to get it right. On the face of it, this application looks great, and comes with a whole suite of benefits in S106. But it's not in the right place, in the right location. It's not for Borton. We have to get this right. It's a far cry from policy 5 of the Borton neighbourhood plan that was just for a few homes and a village hall site. This far exceeds that policy. And I know Councillor Cooper, you brought up just now, officers, the urban design officer couldn't support this because of the quantum of development, unsympathetic to the local character. Dorset County Conservation Officer, less than substantial harm to the listed building of Chatham Moor Farmhouse and its elevated position. It grows the agricultural setting of the farm. And the landscape officer, the site erodes the clear distinction between the countryside and the settlement, and it erodes that green area between Chatham Moor Farmhouse and the edge of Borton. Borton is a linear village, is a very long village. We've heard it's over a mile long, The facilities are very well spaced out right to the end, and I know it's a very long walk from one end to the other. So I don't class this as a sustainable location. Future residents would have to use their car to go and get any goods or services. And also refer to Bolton Parish Council's list of concerns. As I've said, it exceeds the aims of policy 5. It's contrary to policies of the local plan as well. The housing distribution policies 2, 6 and 20. Policy 20, development in the countryside, would be allowed if there's an overriding need. There is no overriding need for 50 homes on the edge of Bolton.
No.
And being on the edge, it should be a transition into the countryside. And here we've got density of homes. And I know there's landscaping, but still, it will still be seen from the southwest, the east. It's contrary to Bolton Neighbourhood Plan 1A, because it's urbanisation of the rural character, and it will harm important views through there. And as I said, the heritage assets and the environmental impact. So all in all, I have weighed this up very carefully, and in my opinion, this is the wrong location in the wrong place. The wrong application, the wrong place. And I would move to refuse this application.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Potterbury.
Thank you, Chairman. I have absolutely no problem agreeing with Councillor Rideout, who has very adequately pointed out the planning the planning policies that this actually flies in the face of, I believe. It is outside of the settlement boundary, and it is on productive farmland. So that's the starting point. I don't believe the benefits outlined in this proposal outweigh the harm to the heritage asset of Cheppenham Moor Farmlands. And I'm not going to mention all the policy numbers because Councillor Rideout's already done that. I think, sorry, I've got so many scribbles down here. It has been pointed out that the urban design officer, conservation design officer, landscape officer are all unable to support the application. It seems, excuse me, rather pointless to have all this expertise within our council and then to ignore their views. So I'll leave that there. We have 73 objectors from Bolton. They know their village. It's a lovely village. They don't want this development, and I can't see any good reason to bend the rules for them, because that's where I think we are. Currently there is inadequate infrastructure. The doctors, the school site, and one bus a day, as far as I'm aware. So I'd like to second Councillor Rideout's proposal to refuse this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any more comments? Councillor Wood.
Yeah, Councillor Carl Wood, Gillingham Ward. My main concern with this would be the scale of the development in relation to the size of Bolton. Especially when it's just an outline, I think that as a development of this scale and this location, we need more detail on what exactly is going to be built there, how it's going to be built there, how it's going to be maintained. We're talking about these open spaces. We don't know if the parish, is it viable for the parish council to look after that? We don't know. Is it viable for the future residents to maintain that? We don't know. So I think that for the scale of the development in the location it's at, we would need more detail, and I don't think the outline really provides that for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else like to make any comments or views? No? Councillor Jesperson.
Yeah, I just to support the councillors from Gillingham in the villages and saying I think that this is this application flies in the face of such a significant number of our policies. We have our 5-year housing land applied, so there is no justification for building the development of this size outside of the settlement boundary. It seems to me very clear that we should be refusing this, and there is ample grounds on which we should, defendable grounds, in my view, on which we could be doing that.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready to move this to a vote.
Our grounds. Yes.
Yes, could we please summarise them with material reasons? We do need material.
Sorry, could I summarise back what I feel?
Okay, yes, I'll just summarise back again to you.
Thank you, Chair. So I think out of the points that have been raised, I think there's 3 refusals that we could group that could be grouped together as 3 distinct reasons. You've got firstly the developments outside of the settlement boundary of Walston, and then contrary to the spatial strategy policies 2, 6, 20 and Walston neighbourhood plan policies, because it's outside settlements. So that would be one, and that captures also the sustainability of the location because it's contrary to the spatial strategy. I wouldn't suggest that we say it's unsustainable in terms of access to services, because in our spatial strategy, Walston is a larger village, and it is where growth can be accommodated. So it's drawing that distinction there, I think. So I think, but broadly, it does conflict with the settlement boundary policy and also policy 5, which seeks a smaller level of development in the village hall site. The second one was the character of the area, so the character and appearance of the area and eroding that, and talk about it should be a gradual transition, and this wouldn't reflect the character and appearance of the area. I would warn against landscape impact in terms of the setting of the A and B, because it's too far away, and I think that would be difficult to justify that.
True.
In terms of character and appearance and the impact more locally on landscape, that is a separate point. And then thirdly, the setting of Chapley Moor farmhouse, that was mentioned. So you need to consider whether you'd want that as a standalone reason in terms of the fact that there is less than substantial harm to the setting of the farmhouse. And the key there is, do the public benefits of the scheme outweigh that less than substantial harm? So if that's a refusal reason, we would be saying the less than substantial harm to the setting of that farmhouse is not outweighed by the public benefits of the scheme, which are the affordable housing, the open space, the ecology enhancements, and the open market housing on the site. So I think they're the 3 areas, unless there's anything else anyone thinks would take.
Okay, Isidore. Okay, does that reflect your views, Councillor Rideout?
I believe so, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Pottery.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim.
Okay, thanks. So is going to move to a vote. So those in favour of the application?
For refusal.
Opposing it.
Sorry, those in favour of the proposal, I'm very sorry, those in favour of the proposal?
No, those in favour, Mr. Chairman, those who are in favour, those who support the recommendation to refuse.
Yes.
That's the one.
Proposal to refuse that's been made by Councillor Belinda Rideout, refuse this application at Horton. So all those in favour of that proposal?
Refuse.
Looks like it's been overwhelmingly carried. With no votes against. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to have a short adjournment of the meeting because we have to come up with a correct reasons. Okay?
How long?
Yeah, 5 minutes. You're fine with any of that?
Do fine, yeah.
Might be 10.
Anna. Brilliant. Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, very good. Spot on. How long was that, Richard?
Excuse me, everyone, we've got another application to discuss.
Oh, it's
I
down.
wonder whether we could,
Carol.
resume.
Yes.
Clap your hands.
Yeah.
There you go. How's that in the
Yeah.
Get
Carol,
Get the
Carol,
We're on.
leave.
So on some time.
No, between them.
That's
Oh,
fine,
between,
thank you.
Jack Jeeves.
Jack's got an
Job's
impact.
out.
Oh, it's this one. He's got
It says the interest.
Is he nearby?
No, he's down there.
Thank you. We resume the meeting of the Northern Area Planning Committee. Now, we have just been discussing here the previous application at Borton, and it's been decided this will be deferred.
What?
Oh, inference being deferred. Okay, I'm going to ask Hannah to explain what's going on.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, members. We've just realised that the report doesn't reflect anything about the affordable housing requirement in the neighbourhood plan. There's a requirement in policy MHN, meeting housing needs. The threshold for affordable housing provision is on 5 dwellings or more at 40% of the total number of dwellings. And unfortunately, this has been omitted from the report. So we'd like the opportunity to look at this with the applicant, fully look at the issue and report it back at the next available opportunity for consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So this will be deferred. Is anyone against that?
Excuse me, Chairman, are we talking about Pimpern?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
good,
thank
all
you.
right.
579.
In favour of that. Thank you very much. Yes, support that.
All right, thank you. So what we'll do then is to move to the next item on the agenda. This is application P//2024/03602. This is a full application. Hazelbury Brinery Primary School, which is Parks Off Bus Access. And it's going to be introduced by Hannah.
That was short and sweet, wasn't it?
Okay, we just need to return councillor Jack.
Oh, brilliant. Well done, Phil. Hmm.
Just stays. They number the meeting next. Yes, okay, all right.
Cheers, Sharon.
That's done.
Great, don't I?
There's ours.
I know.
Come on.
Well, never mind. Just waiting, sir.
Okay, Councillor Jesperson has left the meeting. So I'd like to ask to present.
Thank you, Chair. The application is for a new car park for the school, primary school in Hazelby Bryan. In terms of the site's location, you can see here Hazelby Bryan's a very dispersed village, lots of different elements to it. So walking to school is extremely difficult down the country lanes, and most trips are by car, even though there has been attempts to have walking buses and such like. The roads are not suited really to walking, and therefore people do have to rely on the car to get to this primary school. So you can see the existing layout. In terms of constraints, the most significant constraint is St James's Church here, which is Grade 1 listed, so very highly significant asset here opposite the school site. No other constraints of any concern apart from the church. So this is the existing layout. There's a very small car park in this location here, which only can accommodate 6 cars here. It's not very ideal at all. Or people have to park in the church car park on the opposite side of the road. You'll see some photographs in a minute about the existing arrangement. So this is the school playing field, this area here, and in red. In terms of the proposed layout, we have 30 new spaces formed in this area of green space here. And 2 disabled parking spaces formed in this location here. So a significant increase in the level of parking that would be afforded to the school. New access here just past the existing lay-by, which have adequate visibility space. There was a plan for the lay-by to be retained, but there was concerns about parking in the visibility space. That's now been removed. And the hedge will be translocated backwards to avoid too much impact on the character of the area for the new access. This dotted line here shows the existing playing field that would be retained for a small kickabout pitch. Sufficient area for this to be retained in line with the Sports England guidance. So there's no objection there, and it can be maintained for the duration of construction work and isn't decreased to an unacceptable size that makes it unviable. This is the swept path analysis of larger vehicles such as a coach that might need to access the site. And Steve will be able to talk about this more, but it basically would, there's room for it to be able to reverse into the car park and then exit in a forward gear. And we also have some a crossing here so that people crossing the car park can still safely access the playing field beyond. So in terms of levels, you've got Pidney Hill here where the access will be formed off of, and there's some limited regrading, a gentle slope into the site, and then you can see the zebra crossing would be here. So not too much excavation required in terms of the levels across the site. This shows the existing arrangement, so you can see the school entrance here where children have to wait on the road to access the car park. This would still be retained, so there's still the pedestrian permeability through the site that people can still access the school here. They also will have the opportunity to safely access from the car park over in this direction. And then you can just see the church parking here and the existing small car park that's there at the moment. There's some photographs of the existing arrangement because it's very narrow, the road. There's not much opportunity for parking at all. This is the existing school parking, which isn't really laid out in a way that's very acceptable, and that would be 2 disabled access parking spaces here. You can see the church parking, which is utilised by the school over here. In terms of the existing arrangement, children currently access the school directly from this location here, so it's not an ideal situation onto the playground. They don't have any opportunity to really stand off with the road until the gates opened, which is not ideal also. And parents and visitors are limited to the church car park and adjacent roads, which can lead to congestion and also block junctions and driveways. So some photographs of the site. It is a verdant type lane, so it's important to try to retain that sort of character, and that's why the hedgerow will be translocated back into the site. You can see that the access will be just past this bit past the lay-by here, which limits the amount of hedgerow that needs to be translocated by using the lay-by area. You can just see the church here beyond as well, so you can see we're within the setting of the church, but because the car park will be tucked behind the school with plants in, there would be no harm. You'll see this on a later photograph to the setting of the important asset. Again, just some photographs from the southeast showing where the access would be in these locations where the arrow is here. And then again, you can just see the amount of hedgerow identified here that would have to be translocated. And the hedge outlined in yellow would be translocated onto the southeast to achieve the visibility splays that are required. There's some photographs looking across. So this small clump of trees would need to be removed, but they're not really of any significance and they don't really have much amenity value in the wider area, so their loss is acceptable, and it will be mitigated through new planting along the edge of the parking area. This is views from the footpath around the playing field in the northeast corner. You can see there's still a significant amount of the playing field that will be retained. And you can get glimpse views of the playing field through the fence on the eastern side. And the bottom photo shows where the car park would be alongside the school buildings, and the wooden shed would be relocated and those trees would be removed, as you can see here. So in terms of the access, there's crossing points from the car park into the playground, as you can see here, and pedestrian access will still be available, as I mentioned, from the T-junction over here. So in terms of the points to be discussed, there's many letters of support from parents and local people, and the representations describe parking chaos and how the situation in the area and drop-off at times is considered to be dangerous. The school car park only has 6 spaces. This would be a significant increase in parking to serve the school. And any loss of the green space would be outweighed by the benefits of the proposal. There's no objection from Sports England because the pitch size, it actually complies with one of their exemptions, which is exemption 3. And also paragraph 104 of the NPPF, because obviously the obligation is to ensure that sports pitches aren't reduced and must be maintained, and that's really important. But this application would ensure that the size of the pitch is acceptable and could still be used through the construction process. So the application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions on commencement, plan numbers, the access crossing to be constructed, parking and turning, the visibility space to be created and maintained, entrance gates, and also the new planting. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Taylor.
Do we have a presentation from Highways first? Or?
Do we have any presentation from you, Steve?
Chris was a presentation, but I can talk you through it. Thank you very much. As Hannah mentioned, historically this has been quite an issue over the years with regards to indiscriminate parking by parents, and I think we're all aware with schools that they attract parents and cars who park wherever they can. I think all the chaos was mentioned quite rightly here. So they park up and down the carriageway, which is a great deterrent for speed, but not good when you're walking along with a child alongside you. So as a highway authority, we're fully supportive of the provision of the car park. Now, when it first came in, the applicant provided a footway along the sort of northern side of the axis, as you can see, the idea being that parents could still drop off on the road. My concern there was that they would be bumping up on the footway and parking and taking their kids in, so I suggested they took that out and that we got as large a car park as possible within the site, which is what you see before you. It's a standard design like you see in a supermarket with a 6-metre aisle, 5-metre wide spaces, and there's a little nib at the end that you just about see, which is a metre in distance, which means that the end space can actually get in and out easily. That's quite often left off with parking design. We've minimised the amount of highway in inverted commas which is required. The swept path that you can see there dictated the actual junction radii into the site, so it's got to be that wide and that radii on each side to actually be able to ensure you can get, that's a standard 12-metre rigid bus which is going in and out of the site. Gates will be set back 7 metres, you can just about make those out on the plan. We wouldn't normally encourage reversing on or off the highway in this instance, but in this instance, we think it's the only solution you have, which solves an issue which we've got before us. Hopefully there's enough spaces, and hopefully it would prevent parents from still wishing to park on the highway.
Sure.
Only time will tell on that. Visibility displays you can make just about in pink. They're 43 metres, which, as I said on the previous application, is for 30 mph approach speeds. I think from the north we're unlikely to be doing 30. There's a speed control bend. Along the straight, we've just got to maximise what we've got there. But again, fingers crossed, people won't be driving along there at that sort of speed. But if they are, we've catered for that. So my presentation would indicate that we're all okay with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Taylor.
Well, excellent. I think it's a nice application, and the thing is that it's well worth it because the traffic on the road has been in the past an issue, which I won't talk about now, but it was one which this would welcome in, making sure that the area is safeguarded for the children and the parents, and cars stopping, jumping all over the roads and things. So I was going to say, there's only one thing I would like to ask, and that's in the construction tarmac. It says permeable on there. Is there a way? There is a way of working a greenway into this, isn't there, with the netting you can put into the ground, and it works roads grass. Can this be put into
the car park itself?
Yeah, the car park itself, the tarmac, because it's, as we know, we go through tarmac on everything, and it's like, hang on a second,
It just
runs everywhere into the road. But I'm just wondering, as a condition, could we bring that in, Steve?
Through you, Chair, I would suggest that allowing for potential wheel scrubbing from a heavy bus is probably not appropriate. I think you're talking about some form of grasscrete arrangement or plasticise that wouldn't withstand the day-to-day movements of the bus, particularly if it's just moving its wheels in place. So I would suggest a permeable form of tarmac would be appropriate.
Thank you.
They could build in drainage, which would work. There's always an engineering solution to solve any problem.
No, you're right. No, can I come back, Chair?
My opinion.
Yes, okay, quickly, yes.
I'd like to propose move this forward as a proposal to go forward.
Yeah, I've got one more question.
No, I wasn't actually going to ask a question. I also was going to cut to the chase. I've had great pleasure in doing Harvest Festival assemblies at this school, well, actually in the church opposite. And parking, you're just parking on corners. The road's so narrow. So I was going to propose, or I'm happy to second. I know the school, I know the area very, very well. So please, let's just do it. Let's do it.
So Councillor David Taylor proposes that we approve this application. Yes, Hannah just wants to add something.
Sorry, Chair. I should have mentioned that one of the plan numbers needs revising. The existing and proposed cross sections revision 1, because we have a revised plan. Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
Okay, then I'll carry on. So again, Councillor David Taylor proposes that we accept this resolution, and Councillor Jones seconds it. So please can we move to the vote? All those in favour? That's been unanimously carried. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, that's right. Right, the next application is for industrial unit, Bronze Mill Way, Sturmiston, Newton. The application number is P/2024/04028. I did believe that Stephen Banks was going to present this for us, but Stephen's just coming now. Just coming on, Steve.
Screen.
We should switch over. Let me know when you're ready, Stephen.
Thanks, yeah.
Meeting, hybrid meeting, you double click on that. Then share. Is that one?
Chapman? Okay, please go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you. As mentioned, the proposal is for the erection of an industrial building, and the location is Plot 3, North Dorset Business Park, Rollsmill Way, Sturminster Newton. The first slide shows the location within the red line. Again, here is the location, the application site within the red line. This block plan shows the building to the left within the site and also the area where it's proposed that parking will be created. This slide shows the proposed roof plan and the floor plan, which identifies the 5 proposed units within the building. And this proposed floor plan includes the size of those 5 units referred to. This slide shows the northeast, south and west elevations of the proposed building. And this plan shows the proposed and existing drainage. And again, or soil not again, and here's the proposed access. And here's a close-up of that proposed access. This unit shows the existing utilities and the proposed utilities. And this slide shows the existing drainage or proposed drainage. And this slide shows the existing and proposed landscaping. The area of proposed landscaping is to the south of the proposed building. This identifies where the application site is within the industrial estate on the southern edge. And this photograph is a view of the application site looking southwest from Rollsmill Way, across the site. And this photograph is a view of the application site looking west towards the application site. This photograph is a view of the application site looking southeast from Rollsmill Way. This photograph is again a view of the application site looking southeast from Rollsmill Way. And this photograph again is from southeast, a bit closer, looking southeast from Rollsmill Way. The final photograph is a view of the application site looking northwest from footpath N53/70. The key issues are the principle of development, character and appearance, living conditions and highway safety. And it's recommended that to delegate authority to the head of planning and surface manager for development management enforcement to grant subject to conditions which relate to the commencement of development, approved plans, the use of the units, drainage, finished floor levels, materials, access, geometric highway layout, turning area and parking area construction, entrance gates, construction of cycle parking facilities, hours of use, and the operation of powered machinery, tools and equipment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Members, do we have any questions? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor David Taylor here, Chancellor Area Dorset Council and Vice Chair of today's committee, Northern Planning. My only concern on this, I think we've raised in the past, is the noise of the power tools. Now, I'd like to know what's going on there, because if you've got a huge building with power tools going away hell for leather, shall we say, the thing is that it's going to be a noise factor, because across the road is local residents and accommodation. So I just want to know about the hours of terms of hours, noise control, and where are we with this? Thank you, Chair.
Please go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you. As far as noise is concerned, there's 2 recommended conditions. One is number 10, which states that, well, word for word, the recommendation reads, the premises shall not be used for the purposes hereby permitted outside the hours of 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock on Mondays to Fridays, excluding public holidays, and at no time on Sunday or public holidays. And then condition 11, which relates to the machinery, noise from machinery, states no power machinery, tools or equipment shall be operated within the application site outside the building hereby approved. So pretty much there's condition concerning the hours of operation and a condition restricting where the use of machinery can take place.
Can I come back, Chair?
Okay, thank you.
Can I come back? Yeah. The reason why I'm stating this, Chair, is the fact that we did have a similar case with a stone cutting unit outside, and the noise was unbearable. So the thing is that I'm just wondering whether or not there could be conditions put into this, please, Steve, regarding the fact, is there any noise dampening or anything like that? Because I still think it's a bit of a problem there. That's what I feel.
Okay, thank you. Could you come back on that, Stephen?
No, you don't need to.
If the committee do think a further condition would be necessary, it could be worth noting that the Environmental Protection Department didn't raise any concerns.
Okay.
Just worth noting. Obviously, the committee has an opinion.
I'm thinking on purely residence aspect. Yeah, on that one there, more environmental. Thank you.
Is it possible that the insulation used for heating to prevent heat from leaking through the walls is also adequate for sound? Maybe that's something that you could check out on. Obviously, that's under building regulation.
Building regulation.
I think, as Stephen said, the fact that our environmental health team have looked at this and are happy with what's proposed, we're satisfied that the use with those conditions that are proposed would be acceptable in this location in relation to the immediacy of the neighbours. If we are going to put any conditions on, it has to be based on sort of the evidence of there being an issue.
Noise issue.
To sort of work out without sort of technical information on that. But I think we should be reassured that there's no environmental health objection. It's similar to other uses that are already happening around the site, and there's no, as far as I'm aware, issue at this point in time.
Yeah.
With the development.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Jones.
Thank you. This is my patch. This is a business park. We don't need any further conditions on. And in fact, I welcome some construction on the site. We need more employment land. Could you just show me though, where is the footpath in relation to that building? Can you point it out, please? Because that footpath is really overgrown, and I'm wondering whether we can get them to cut it back and so that people from the town can get through. Where is the footpath?
Yes, the footpath runs along the bottom here.
Right, so it's right adjacent to that development. Is there anything we can do in the conditions to ask them to open up that footpath and make it passable so that those from the town without a vehicle or with wanting to walk to work there can do so? Is that possible or not?
I've got a photo. There's a photograph here that shows that.
Oh, okay. What's the footpath looking like?
Yeah,
Can't really see. To be honest, it's not the best photo, is it? Really?
The hill.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. If it's a public footpath, there's a requirement to keep it open anyway, so we could.
But who would normally do that? Because our poor rangers are up to their ears.
Yeah, I think it's difficult if it's a statutory designated footpath to put planning conditions on this application.
Okay.
There's a requirement under the footpath legislation that they should be kept open anyway.
Okay.
So if there is an issue, we can look at
Okay.
to see if there needs to be some action taken to keep it open. But I don't think we could justify a condition on this application because it's not directly related to the development itself. It's a separate issue.
Well, I welcome this development, and the sooner we can get Rollsmill built out and it has the grid capacity to do so, because that's always been a problem, then I would just like to propose we accept. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just before appreciate Councillor Jones has just proposed, but I think we just go back to Stephen. Just there's a slight issue with condition 10 that needs to be picked up before we vote on the hours of working. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, Stephen.
Thanks. The condition I read out referring to the working hours said Monday to Friday. It should have said Monday to Saturday.
Good, good, yes, yes.
Okay,
So
that
it's,
means
yeah,
So change that to Saturday.
conditions.
work going on.
That's
Correct.
fine.
Change next day.
Okay,
That's
thank
fine.
you. Councillor Pothbury.
Thank you, Chairman. I've looked and looked. I was hoping to see some solar panels on these roofs. And it seems to me that as the local authority, we should be promoting best practice.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see solar panels on all our industrial buildings. Could we just confirm whether we have or we have not asked for solar panels on these roofs? Thank
So
you.
do we have solar panels?
As far as I'm aware, there's no solar panels proposed. It's the council owned site, but we're not the applicant. So yeah, we couldn't insist on solar panels. It'd have to meet current building regulations that aren't there. Not part of the proposal.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ryder.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick comment, really. I know I've spoken to Stephen, the case officer, about this prior to this meeting, but with regard to biodiversity, rather than looking at the impact, perhaps in future we could look to improve biodiversity by the way of bird and bat boxes on these buildings, because they are tall and there is vegetation around. So it's just a comment, really. I know we can't do anything on this application, but maybe going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I like that.
Do we have any seconders for this proposal? Councillor Jeeves.
Sorry. You go, Jack.
Same really, Councillor Jones already mentioned it's an industrial park and it will create jobs in an area with probably not many jobs available, so let's go for it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So, proper vote? Yeah, second is Councillor Jeeves and the proposer is Councillor Jones.
And
The
James.
proposal is to accept planning permission for this application. So, good, all those in favour, vote their hands, please. Okay, I believe that's unanimous. So that is carried for application number E/FUL/04/04/028. The next application that we have is E/2024/0567. This is Church of England First School, Cernavis, and that's to build a learning resource centre. This will be presented by Jim Bennett when you're ready, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members may recall that this application or something similar was presented to them for consideration in October 2023 and it was approved. So the principle of this type of development has previously been accepted on the site. The only reason it's before you today is because of the Dorset Council application. It's been uncontentious, no objections to it. The reason we've got this varied application is because changes have been made to the design to make certain elements of the building prefabricated. It's really a cost implication and also to bring the building into compliance with building regulations and fire regulations. So the proposal relates to extension of Cernavis Church of England First School. Excuse me, sorry. So this is the site represented by the red line on the aerial photograph here. The extension to the building is going to be immediately to the north of the existing primary school, which you see stretching away to the south in that aerial photograph. Again, you see the application in red with other holdings of the school highlighted in blue, including the playing field to the northeast and the main school building to the south. So this is the proposal, the main element of the development. This is the proposal, the extension to the school. It will provide reception, office and additional learning space in this location here, connected to the Victorian school building by a lightweight construction link structure to the south. Various technical details showing the steps up to the raised area. You'll see from photographs that the site of the building is raised in relation to the adjoining Duck Street. And this just shows planting and step arrangement to the proposed building. So these are the main plans. This structure here is the main new build element. It's a subservient structure to the main school building in this location here. As stated previously, it's on an elevated portion of the site. Others believe that it won't compete with the main school building. It's recessed back from the frontage of the main school building, and it will be a helpful addition to the functioning of the school. Solar panels are proposed on the rear portion of the building, which will be screened from the high street, Duck Street. So you won't see those, but it will provide a benefit to the environment and the school as well. So the photographs, so the structural work here in this raised area here, slightly set back from the main Victorian school building. And will be, in the opinion of officers, an acceptable addition to the street scene. These are some an internal view of the existing playground, which is occupied currently by the top of paraphernalia you'd expect to see in a school playground. And here we have the site from the south on Duck Street. So to summarise, the proposals considered to be in full accordance with the development plan and national policy. The principle of this type of development has previously been accepted, and the proposal is acceptable in terms of its design and visual impact, subject to conditions. No impact on neighbouring amenity, highway safety or heritage assets, and accordingly it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Stephen. Please can I ask Catherine Cresswell, the head teacher of Sir Alice Curriculum and Trust to speak. You have 3 minutes.
Right, good afternoon. I'm the head teacher at Sir Nabas Church of England First School. Sir Nabas Village is a remarkably together community, and there is a close relationship that exists between our school and that community. The school is housed in a very old building. In fact, it is the oldest working school building in Dorset. The building's not listed, and though attractive, it was designed for a very different and much earlier generation of school children. So over time, it's had to undergo a number of adaptations. The teaching and staff areas are very cramped, and finding sufficient space for the many needs of modern children is problematic. The funding formula for schools is heavily dependent on pupil numbers, and even small changes can make the difference between budget balance and budget deficit. We are in the fortunate position of being the only small school in the Salisbury Diocese with growing pupil numbers. But as a result, we currently have a class of 29 children in a room that is far too small for them. The tables have to be arranged in rows, and the teacher is unable to reach all the children without moving furniture out of the way. Additionally, the carbon monoxide monitor frequently rises to a level in excess of the recommended one. The original plan to relocate our school on the Simsay site was abandoned some years ago by the local authority. However, they have recognised our increasing desperate need for more space and is funding this resource centre. We are pleased to say our school is successful. We received a good Ofsted grading and an excellent church score report. in 2023. We've no vacancies on our governing body and there is an active and supportive parent group. We want to continue this success, but we can only do this if we can provide adequate facilities for our children and maintain the pupil numbers, which in turn bring in sufficient resources to fund these facilities. St Albans, a village situated in beautiful countryside, preservation of such assets and pride in their woods plays a huge part of our children's curriculum. We accept that any addition to the school buildings should be pleasing to the eye and not at odds with the local building style. And we earnestly believe that the updated proposals for this Learning Resource Centre have managed to fulfil this requirement, whilst also delivering a building with a specific function which will satisfy the desperate need. We ask for your help in enabling construction of the Learning Resource Centre for the school. This is the final window of opportunity to have the new teaching area expansion completed in time for it to be up and running for the new take of pupils in September. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from members, please? Please go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. It's not really a question, I'm skipping to comment, sorry. I think, hearing those quite alarming things about carbon monoxide levels, etc., it's a good development, it's a good use, it means extra resources to the school. Why would we say no to it? So I'm happy to propose to approve.
Thank you. So we go straight to Councillor David.
Yeah, I'll second that confirmation, please.
Okay.
Proposal.
So we have a proposer. Sorry, what's your second name?
Major.
Sorry?
Major.
Sorry. Councillor Major proposes and seconded by Councillor David Taylor. The proposal is for this application to be granted. Could we all take a vote by a show of hands? I think that's unanimous. So I think you can say for certain you agreed. So thank you for that. So application number P/EOC/2024/05673 decided for that to be granted. Okay. Item number 10 on the agenda. Urgent items. We don't have any. Exempt business. We don't have any. So therefore, I can declare the meeting is closed at 12:20.
Okay.
So thank you very much, everybody. For your efforts today.
Brilliant.
That was the next 2.5 hours for the first item.
Good to get some more units on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just bloody home.
2.5 hours.
Man's going to go, what you brought that back for?